Our world continues to change and push us in ways we have not been challenged before. On this show, we talk about these challenges, how to be aware of them, face them, and overcome them in your life. This is David Waldas, creator of the Aligned Living System.
And I'm Nick Musica, Aligned Living Coach. Welcome to the Aligned Living System podcast.
Welcome to the Aligned Living System podcast. This is David Waldas here with Nick Musica. Today's topic is choose your hacks wisely.
So
Nick's ready.
I want to...
Every time we do the countdown, there's a countdown that goes 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 on the Riverside app that we use. And I always see Nick smiling, wanting to count along with it now.
Yeah.
It's so hard to keep a straight face when I do the intro because you got this smirk in your face. Like
I took my undergrad was in communications, and I took all but I think it was like one TB class, and the rhythm was 5, 4, 3, and then it was 2, but you didn't say 2 and then 1 and then you go. And so I live that memory every time we do it. Yeah.
That's great. I can bring you back to your college days with our
it was fun. It was fun. So you mentioned hacks.
Back to watching iCarly with my daughters. With Freddie would do the count in every time. If anybody's, I don't know.
I don't know that one.
Not your world.
No.
Anyways, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah. So it sounded like, which was not what it sounded like before we got on the recording, right? That typical rhythm we have of let's talk about a thing. What's the thing we're actually going to talk about? Yeah. And you said something about like choosing the right hack. And so I want to just be really clear about, are we endorsing the hacks, or are we, what are we doing with hacks? What's the framework for thinking about hacks for the next some minutes?
Yeah. And so most hacks that we hear about are how to make it through the day. Right. And so I think I wanted to really differentiate. There's some hacks that go, my system needs this mineral, or my system needs, name it. Like there's something that I realize is missing from my diet. I can hack it by, I don't need to go through all this whole, redo my diet. I can take some supplement, or I can take, and great, or, maybe it's how I hack for helping me get to sleep. Great. But so often the hacks are trying to make something better today rather than dealing with the underlying problem. And I think that that's a dangerous thing because, it was interesting. I was on a call with these really amazing people the other day, and somebody was asking for some advice, and all the advice that was coming up from the group, it was mastermind. A lot of it was around, how to basically make it through the day. Here's a hack for you to, not have this thing happening. And, it kind of pulled me out because for me, everything that I do in my work with people is about let's clear it out, because when we clear out what's causing the challenge, the underlying issue, and this is about nervous system regulation. This is about resolving something from our childhood around winning, about being able to be successful. We all have our versions of that. And so it was really interesting. It was, instead of how to get through the day, it's like, well, sure, if that's going to get you through this project, but that's not what this is about. Let's go in and let's look at where we need to develop our nervous system regulation. Let's look at where we need to resolve some childhood thing that is unresolved. Because what happens if we're just using hacks is it doesn't expand our inner space, right? We don't get more room inside ourselves to be more creative, to be more expansive, to know ourselves more deeply. We end up, the container gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and we use a little hack to basically survive it and to make it through the gauntlet, or to get, thread the needle, whatever it is. And then we're on the other side of it, and then we just start to recreate again from that place. And we keep recreating the same thing over and over again when we do that. And the moment we have expansiveness, we have creativity, and we have more control over what's really right for us. Yeah, Nick, you look like you wanted to hop in there.
I'm so confused about the word hack. Really? Mm-hmm. I mean, I grew up and I'm like, is my recollection wrong now? I had to really look up the meaning of calling someone a hack. And it's a derogatory term, right? It's like people who can't do it, and they're just sort of winging it, or they're
you're a hack, you're a ham fist.
Right. Like, don't listen to that guy. He's a hack. He doesn't know what he's talking about, right?
Yeah, and so that's a different term. So I think hack actually came from hacker. And so I think it's Dave Asprey, right?
Aspirin.
You know, and
Yeah.
so he was a hacker. And so he would hack
Biohacking.
into computers. And so, you know, all that kind of he's a godfather of that or whatever you want to call that movement. And he hacks stuff, but a lot of what he does is more like diet, supplement, brain stuff,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you know, wearing, you know, the glasses that he wears so that he's cutting out the, um, you know, the light that keeps him, you know, I forget the science behind it, but, but basically
The
there's
blue
things that
light.
he's doing that are dealing with environmental stuff, that are dealing with, you know, that are like, yeah, like, well, I can't change my environment, so I need to hack my way through this. Right. And so if I can't change the artificial light that's around me and I can't get enough sunlight, like the glasses are a hack. And so a lot of what he does makes a lot of sense. And then I think people take and go, oh, I'm gonna look for a hack for everything. And this is where I was like, be really intentional in the hacks you choose. Because if you're trying to find a hack not to have to deal, you know, with your relationship with winning or not have to deal with your challenge in nervous system regulation, that's not going to help you. That's going to get you through the day and it's going to help you create more of what you've already created, which, you know, obviously is what we're trying to do something to the next level. And so hack's a confusing term, right? And I hate it when people go, "Oh, I got a hack for that." It's always a, you know, I need to work on my nervous system regulation because it's always a trigger for me.
It in my internal dialogue is I don't want to hear this.
Mhm, mhm,
This is gonna be more nonsense. This is gonna be more shiny thing, idea of the day, of the minute,
mhm.
just because it worked for 10 people, or one person, and then another 9 people said sounds like a great idea, does not mean it's going to work for anyone
Yeah,
else, right?
yeah, absolutely. And so that,
So I mean when you're talking about Dave Osprey, and I saw him speak once, and he was very good. This was a long time ago before he was big. This is like during the coffee days, like so before a
yeah,
lot of
yeah,
the
yeah,
other things
bulletproof.
came out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I keep hearing optimizations, not a
Yeah,
hack.
absolutely, and he has a different perspective. He's a super psychic, intuitive, energetic dude, you know, like, I was at an event with him and I was at an after party, and he came and sat down next to me, and we talked for, like, 45 minutes. It was a really cool conversation, but it was just, you know, we were just having a fun conversation. It wasn't like, "Oh, tell me about your business." We were just talking about being psychic, being intuitive, the way that we see the world and the way that we feel things. So I got a really cool experience of Dave. And you know, he is all about optimization, right? He's about, I'm not going to do the bullshit that other people are doing that isn't creating anything. What
Right.
matters,
Right.
you know? And I think that that can be like, we have to be really intentional about it. It makes me think about when I trained to do my oil certification. You know, and it's funny. I know I'm setting myself up for a joke here, right? You know, with doTERRA or, you know, like every every spiritual person that starts out like, oh, what oil company do you work with? But I worked with this company, Wisdom of the Earth, and their oils are just exceptional. They're out of Cornville, Arizona, just outside of Sedona, and the training was phenomenal. Well, you know, as I learned more about that and read more about it, I realized, you know, or was taught that modern medicine is, so much of it comes from plant medicine. So much of it comes, you know, not plant medicine as we think of it, but from plants, from
Yeah.
oils.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what they do is they go, okay, what's the active ingredient in this plant or in this oil that actually makes a difference? And then they basically recreate it chemically and magnify it, you know, times 1,000. But what they don't notice is that there's all these other chemicals, all these other uh, I forget the names for them, but basically all these other parts of the plant that also have a response. And it's this system that the plants developed over, you know, hundreds of thousands of years to actually to work collectively together with all these the chemical compounds in it. Are you looking up
Yeah.
the name of the?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, this was a conversation with cannabis, right? This was the entourage effect, which is let's just talk about THC,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely,
Because
absolutely.
get high, but then
And so we can boost that, like we can keep, but
that's
then
right.
all the other, you know, active ingredients in it are put to the side.
Yeah,
And if you
yeah,
make a chemical compound of it, that's exactly what modern medicine does and creates all kinds of side effects in it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So you're basically, I mean, mainlining HTC, right? Versus having a relationship with the cannabis plant that has benefits because of the plant, not because I want to get high.
Yeah, with
Different.
like 100,000 active ingredients in it.
Right. Right, right,
right?
right,
And
right,
I
right.
mean, when you look at these, like it's amazing when they break down the plants and the oils. Like we're talking about like 100,000, 200,000 different active ingredients in there. And when it's taken and turned into modern medicine, they take a couple of them and
Yeah,
amplify them, and then go, "Oh, it's weird. We're having all these side effects."
yeah. I mean, it's funny. Like, I was just in Miami, and there was a young lady there presenting on tea.
Hmm. Hmm.
And my wife, who has some challenges with tea, she got some of the tea. She's been drinking it the past couple days, and she's like, "I don't I don't know what's in this tea, but like I'm getting really good sleep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And what's in the tea is herbs,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, and, like,
complete.
amazingly effective, and when you get stuff that's really clean too, like the Wisdom of the Earth stuff, they source it from all over the planet, and so he goes and visits the farmers and knows, the exact and that's why it's not a huge company because everything is,
Right.
small batch sourced where they know the ingredients, and these oils are like nothing else that I've come across, and you put them on your skin or you ingest them, and, like, you have a they're way more effective than anything else that I've come across as far as oils go. I mean, doTERRA ones are great, but this is like a whole nother level. And when we experience that, we go, oh, it's and the more sensitive we are, the easier it works too. And
Yeah,
so when
that's
we
right.
get so dense and so, filled with toxins from our environment and from everything, it does take something more to work. But when you're using things like I've been doing Kelamin, which is basically it pulls toxins out of your body, and it's amazing for brain health. It's amazing, and it seems like the more I do of detoxing type stuff, the more effective those types of things are because we're not clogged with a bunch of other shit that's in the way.
Yeah.
And
The body's working
yeah,
the way it should be in
yeah.
relationship to the things that we should be taking more of.
Yeah, and when people go, "Well, I eat organic," yeah, and we breathe this air, it's
Yeah,
like, why do we need to
that's right.
detox all the time? Because we live in a toxic environment, and wherever you go, there's cleaning products, there's like, it doesn't matter. Yes, eat organic. Yes, use organic cleaning products in your house, and you're gonna be exposed to stuff everywhere. If you
Everywhere.
breathe, you're gonna be exposed to it, and so, detoxing is part of this as well, and when we take this what we're talking about and put it over into hacks, versus the idea of what truly needs to be taken care of here, what's the underlying stuff? It's all about clearing out what's inside. It's about detoxing and detoxing ourselves from our childhood, detoxing ourselves from, the why is this an issue in the first place? Well, there's some environmental problems. Okay, yeah, just like the environmental problems we've all had in our childhood, just like the environmental problems we had in our work situations. And so we took something on from them and we need to detox. And if we're just trying to hack our way through that without the detoxing, like it doesn't work. It's not effective. And so, we need to deal with the underlying issues. And that whole piece of, you can't hack your way past or around or get on the other side. You could say, well, aligned living's is it a hack because we are able to push the world back and open up inside of ourselves? Well, no, it's controlling our systems. It's going deep
Yeah.
inside of
Yeah,
ourselves
yeah, yeah.
and clearing out what's in the way, detoxing ourselves. And it takes it's fast and it's effective. So you might think of it as a hack, but it's definitely not a hack.
Yeah. Yeah, no, not at all. Yeah, I mean, there's without fully understanding the broader context of whatever the hack is supposed to make better,
Hmm.
there's little understanding of that supposed hack.
Hmm.
And you just don't there's nothing, at least for me, there's not a whole lot of beneficial to that, to just throw a hack on top of whatever thing you're doing without understanding what you're trying to create for yourself, or what you're looking to resolve, or whatever it may be. And there's a full understanding around what that looks like. And then maybe there's a piece, aka the hack,
Hmm.
that you've been missing. But it's not just take random shit hacks and throw them onto a system that's not designed to take those things in.
Or to try to bypass something. And
Yeah.
that's, it's
Yeah.
interesting too. As I've, I mean, we live in a world where like higher education is becoming less and less relevant. Like people don't need college in the same way. There's a lot of ways that they can learn stuff. But one of the things that I've seen when I work with clients is clients that have been through higher education versus clients that haven't. And it's quite often the ones that haven't are maybe even more effective because of this, but they're also often missing something. There's often, they've hacked their way. They said, okay, what's
Yeah.
the needle movers?
Yeah.
And they then they have to fill in the foundational stuff afterwards.
Yes.
And those of us that have been through a lot of higher education tend to maybe get stuck in the foundational stuff because we're so busy building all the connective tissue versus just doing the things that matters. And it's amazing how I've seen that very alive in clients where it's like, if they've had a formal education, they really get the value of learning something more thoroughly. And if they haven't, they just go, just let me know what I need to know so that I can just create this and get to the other side of it. And there's some things that we don't need to know, but quite often when we play that game, we're trying to hack our way through and we don't get enough connective tissue. We don't get a thorough knowledge of something. And then we're just going like, here's the 10 things you need to know about breath work. Right. Well, great. What about when this comes up? Or what
That's right.
about,
That's right.
and without the base knowledge, and then people are like, I'm an expert. I know the 10 things you need to know. I can teach it now.
And this is a conversation in terms of psychedelics, right? You have facilitators popping up all over the place like they're dandelions,
Yeah. Yeah.
but without understanding the plant and when something can go wrong, you're not in a position to help anyone
No, no,
when that happens.
no.
So you better work with someone who actually knows what they're talking about,
Yeah,
or else
absolutely. And it's not in it.
someone's going to
Just,
leave the event way worse than you found them.
yeah, dangerous stuff.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And for some people who do that, like the way that their psyche's set up, that they're not going to get drawn into these dark, dark places, maybe. And those of us that have experience with that, like we know what that's like, how to manage it, how to navigate it. And yeah, I mean, it's so clear. Even, I mean, with coaching, exactly the same way. When we're opening up
Uh,
stuff in people, like we need to be able to be there with them while it's open, help them reconstruct, and to be able to understand all that. And when coaches are just like, oh yeah, let's talk about this, and then it opens up and they don't have the skill set. And I think that that's again this mix between like, well, what about people that need to be licensed therapists, and
yeah.
and
Yeah.
then you're like, oh well, great, you can spend next 10 years in talk therapy and get the same thing that we could coach in 6 weeks with you or 10 weeks with you. And also, if you're doing that, you need to be able to have a lot of the skill set that a therapist has, just doing it differently.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so this idea of hacking our way to things is like we can't avoid the foundation, but we also got to be careful not to get stuck in the foundation. Otherwise, we'd never move forward because we're always building connective tissue. I'm not ready yet, and I see that a lot with the highest level clients I have. A lot of them are like, I want to learn a little bit more. I want to be a little bit more prepared because I want to be able to handle any situation that comes up because of that sense of responsibility they feel rather than just the eagerness to go share the changes they had.
Right.
They need to know that everybody's different. And just because we had an experience doesn't mean we also need to be ready for the multitude of experiences somebody else might have in order to support them. And if we're only going from our lane, and going, oh yeah, it's been great for me. Breathwork's awesome. Like, why is that person like sobbing and crying and not coming back? Why is that person not recovering? Maybe it's time that you go see a therapist because I'm a breathwork practitioner, not a therapist. It's like, no, you need to be in triage. You need to be able to handle that for that person, and stay there with them and help them understand what's happening and have the skill set. And
Yeah.
it is something that
And
I think is just massively important.
possibly know when your skill set is reached its capacity and to refer them to someone.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think that's one of the things that we often talk about Bo Eason and being part of his program, like the fact that he has, a really highly qualified psychologist on
Yeah.
psychiatrist. I'm not sure.
On staff.
Joan is a psychiatrist psychologist, but you know, for that first event, like she's on staff, she's there going around and supporting people, and I think that what a brilliant thing that is, right?
Hmm.
Because people are going, it's a part of it's storytelling and speaking. And when you go in to tell your story, it brings up a lot of emotional stuff. You're looking at your past, and you have no idea when you bring a room of 100 people together, who's done their work, who's looked at themselves before, and who's just cracking open for the first time. And so to have that on staff and go, and I mean, he has the skill set, I think, to help people through that, even though he may say he doesn't, but he needs to lead the room. He needs to take everybody forward. And so to have a highly trained expert that can come in and support that is it's just responsible. It's part of it.
And
It's
and
not.
and in that case, there's clear roles and responsibilities
Hmm.
around
Hmm.
this is where my job begins and ends, and then someone else's takes over for
Yeah,
certain
and trusting that.
situations. Yeah,
Yeah,
right, right, right,
yeah,
right. And designing it
absolutely. Yeah.
intentionally.
And so everything we're talking about is personal responsibility, right? Whether it's to others or to ourselves, whether we're doing it as a practitioner, whether we're doing
Yes.
it as a partner or a friend, whether we're doing it in our own world for ourselves, that, in some ways, plant medicine can be considered a hack if it's not done with the support and in the right setting. If somebody's just like, oh, let me just take this, like, no, that's not what it is. Like, it needs to be the right setting. Same thing I talked about with ice baths. If you're just getting an ice bath, yes, it will help, but the idea of doing it so that you're locking in on yourself and learning to train yourself to stay internal and not disassociate from yourself or the experience. Like, what is it that you were training and doing things, thoroughly and right to get the best outcome, rather than just do these quick things and it just moved us to the next level. Look, I'm on level 100. How'd you get there? I have no idea. But if you do stuff, it's like, I remember, like, I loved Rubik's cubes when I was a kid and they came out. And I remember I could get a book where it said, okay, turn this, turn it like this, turn it like this, and these 16 steps, and then do it again and memorize that pattern. I was like, why would I want to do that? Like, what fun is that? Like, that's just going, how'd you get the solution? I did these
Mm.
16 steps through, 7 times, and it solved itself. I'm like, I wanted to figure it out. And I could always get 3 sides and I can never get the fourth side. Or I guess, yeah, three. I guess I get all but one side of it. And I was like, how many sides are there in a cube? 6 sides? Oh my God. Anyways, like, it never appealed to me to get to memorize it. And you go like, well, look how fast they can solve it. They're not solving it. They're following a pattern and just repeating the pattern, and then it's solved. And I'm like, well, that's not interesting to me. I want to look at it and go, okay, how do I resolve this? How do I move the things in a way that gets us there, rather than just do these 10, 16 steps over and over again?
Well, and you're expressing the want for the true understanding of how it works,
Yeah, absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
Not the God, I remember it was terrible when first computers first came out. Maybe it was like sixth grade. It was terrible.
Yeah.
It was like write all these lines of code,
Hmm.
right? And it was
Yeah.
so cryptic. It was such cryptic shit.
Yeah.
And half the class got it, and half the class didn't. I did not. I must have had a character in there that was wrong. And then you hit
Yeah.
enter, right? And this little thing just sort of bobs across the screen.
Right. Right.
Like that really was the whole deliverable of like 15 minutes typing in this god awful code.
Machine code too, right? Where it was just, and so you couldn't see the workings. The machine code was just the lines that the
That's
program
right.
needed in order to
That's
make a
right.
little thing,
And so you
versus
never
basic where you actually have
understood.
commands. Yeah.
Yeah, right. This interface
Hmm.
that was happening. You were just looking at one terrible character after the other
Yeah.
and following it as best you could and hitting enter, but
Hmm.
not understanding this machine is designed to do this thing. Here's what it can do. And now we're interfacing with this machine. That was never, at that point, that was never not the conversation. It was computers are big. They're cool. They're
Yeah.
going to be the wave of
Yeah.
the future.
Absolutely. It's funny. I loved math up until we got into like trigonometry, where it was just like, no, just do these steps. I'm like, well, what do these steps do? Like, you don't need to worry about it. Just do the steps. And I would sit there and try to figure it out, and I couldn't figure it out because I wasn't willing to just go, okay, do this, do this, do this. My teacher's getting so frustrated with me. She's like, why can't just do the next step? I'm like, but what does it do? And it solves the answer.
Yeah. I mean, something to be said for just do the steps and then we're going to talk about why it worked.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But to just blindly follow steps and think you know something now.
Yeah. Which, I mean, it has value, but like, to me in my mind, and it's funny to me, like, reflecting on it, it's how I've always worked. Like, I want the underlying, I want to clear the whole thing out. I want it all to be connective tissue and to make sense. I don't want to just hack it
Yeah.
and go, and
Yeah.
that's what I loved about math up through. And I taught math for a long time, and I loved teaching it because it was like we could talk about the direct application, and we could talk about exactly what each step is doing. And to me, it was fascinating, and it fit together like a puzzle. And then you move to a thing of just, okay, so hit these buttons on your calculator. Did you get the right answer? You did. Good
Yes.
job. You got it right. Like,
Yeah.
what was that?
I mean, just this morning I was looking at the homepage of one of my websites and I'm like, it's not doing what I wanted to do on mobile.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm fussing with like 3 controls
Mm-hmm.
to do it. And I finally realized, oh, it's not about these 3 controls. It's not about
Yeah.
this little block. It's about this block, maybe, or it's
Mm-hmm.
about a new block, right? And so, I mean, I've put together more than one website so I can look at it from that perspective. But if someone's only looking at the block,
Yeah.
you're not going to get a result ever,
Right. Yeah.
ever.
Absolutely. And to me, it's like there's no creativity in it. And that's the whole piece of like when we go back to nervous system regulation, when we go back to being able to be settled inside of ourselves and create that expansiveness, now we have creativity. Now we have expression of self. If we're just hacking, we're just going from here to there. And to me, the fulfillment of like what's a win? Like, oh, I did this and I got the outcome. Awesome. I'm happy for 10 seconds. But when we really get to express ourselves through something and be the connective tissue and see the impact that it has on other people, that's where all the fulfillment is. That's where the sense of purpose, that's where the sense of making a difference in the world, of doing things that matter. You know, that it's a like me being here makes a big difference.
This is
It's
this is going to
so
be
interesting.
more and more important as AI becomes more and more mainstreamed.
Absolutely,
I mean, I,
absolutely.
I saw something on LinkedIn about a manager posted like a conversation between um, them and someone who is younger in career, and the
Mhm.
conversation sounded like this: "When are you going to have that page ready?" I need to work on that tomorrow. Why? Because I ran out of credits in my AI prompt. But I hired a writer. No, you didn't hire a writer. You hired
Yeah,
someone who can write using AI. That's different than a writer. It's
yeah,
different. And
yeah.
so now if
You
everyone's
hired a
going,
prompter.
which is in this case, I would argue is one of the hacks, being a hack, using a hack.
Yeah.
You just don't have the foundation to go, oh shit, okay, let me do it myself.
Mhm, mhm.
It's gonna take longer, it's gonna take more
So
effort.
tedious writing, yeah.
Right. But
And I get it, since I started using AI, I'm like, "Man, it's just so easy."
it's easy. Yeah, and there's a risk there for people who have a skill to
Yeah,
start to dull that skill.
absolutely,
And there's
absolutely.
a risk for people who never had that skill
To never
to never
develop it.
develop it in
Yeah,
the first place.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Choose your hacks wisely, right?
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's so interesting, and so just reiterating, like, what is this about? It's about us as individuals and our purpose and what we're bringing, that sense of fulfillment, that sense of making a difference. And when we're just doing the things to create an outcome and we're not developing ourselves, you know, in a way, we're just becoming like a computer. We're just like spitting, you know, going, oh, okay, I created this. Here you go. That did that. That did that. But that humanness, the whole sense of purpose and being here, and I think that this is going to be part of the crisis that's going to be created by AI
Mm.
is, you know, like to win without being part of the team, you know, is like what good does that do, you know? And you know, it doesn't give you your sense of self. It doesn't give you your sense of what I'm here and what I'm doing. And you say, well, I'm the one writing the prompts. Well, absolutely. But there's something there about just that deeper ownership of full responsibility.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Watch out for them hacks.
But also utilize them in the right moment and in the right time. And there's times too
Yes.
when you're just like, this is what I need to do to get through the day, you know? And if you're in a situation where, you know, like that, when I was talking about the idea of like, well, this is about your nervous system regulation. This is about your relationship with winning and what it was like as a child. Okay, that's great. Let's start working on that. But also, what do you need to do to go to sleep tonight? What do you need to do to get through the day? And but don't call it good and go, okay, I survived it. Great, nothing to work on here. Because the moment that happens again, it's like this keeps coming back to me. The moment we start to lose the space inside of ourselves, and that the creativity is just gone. And the moment we
Yes.
get uncomfortable, the moment we just shut down, we become very functional, prefrontal lobe. We're just trying to get from here to there. We're trying to make it through. And it used to be how when I would get opportunities to speak in front of people, I would be so uncomfortable. It was like, how do I finish this? How do I get it done? Rather than being able to settle in, get creative, enjoy the moment, have it be an interaction. And that that journey for me of being able to work with my nervous system to be comfortable being around that because it was such an energetic experience for me as I'd be speaking in front of people. And so to be able to use the online living tools to claim my space, to trust myself, to get so that I can maintain that creativity. And I think we all know that the moment we get overwhelmed, it's all just becomes very functional. How do I
Yeah.
make it through this?
Yeah.
Versus, what's like, oh, there's all this space inside me for creativity and thinking and holding other people's ideas and building off of them rather than protecting ourselves. And it's fascinating.
Yeah. For sure. For sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, great conversation, Nick. Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I didn't, I was it was cool where it went. I didn't know that it would go there into AI and into all the places, but it all matches up perfectly into essential oils, all those things
AI and essential oils. Who knew? Who knew?
versus just take the medicine. What's it do? Makes you better.
Yes.
Just a small loss of creativity in the process, but don't worry about that. You'll win. You want to win, or do you want to be present for it?
Uh-huh.
Awesome. Well, great conversation. Thanks for listening, everyone. And we'd love reviews too. That really makes a big difference for other people finding our podcast and so share it, review it, follow, and yeah, we'd love the support. So thanks so much for listening. Have a great week. We hope you enjoyed listening to today's podcast, and if you did, please subscribe so you can catch the next episode. If you want to learn more about the Aligned Living System and how it could support you in your life, check out davidwaldas.com.